They say love is blind, but obsession, ambition, and betrayal can blind you faster. Andrew Monroe was the poster child of success, a self-made millionaire with a stunning mansion in Beverly Hills, a thriving investment portfolio, and a picture-perfect marriage. Yet behind the immaculate facade, a sinister betrayal brewed. One heated night, Andrew shoved his pregnant wife, Catherine, to protect his mistress a moment that would crack his carefully curated world. Secrets simmered beneath grand chandeliers, whispered at exclusive galas, and haunted private jets en route to hidden islands. And when the truth emerged, it threatened to crumble everything he had built. Andrew Monroe sipped his champagne eyes, scanning the expansive ballroom. The annual West Coast Philanthropy Gala, hosted at the iconic Beverly Hills Hotel, was the crown jewel of the social calendar, attended by the wealthiest and most influential. Andrew was in his element among tech giants like Elon Musk, media moguls like Oprah Winfrey, and philanthropic figures like Bill Gates, who was rumored to make an appearance that evening to promote a new global health initiative. Just a decade ago, Andrew was a junior financial analyst at a modest firm in Cincinnati, meticulously scrounging for each month's rent. Today, at 33, he was a millionaire, many times over, with investment stakes in real estate, green energy, and even a thriving luxury car dealership chain. His network was formidable, his presence commanding. He had a taste for elegant suits, a penchant for grand gestures, and an unquenchable hunger for more deals, more influence, more admiration. Andrew's wife, Catherine Monroe, stood at his side, radiant in a flowing emerald gown. 7 months pregnant, she glowed with a serenity that drew the attention of countless admirers. Where Andrew's world had once been lonely, Catherine brought warmth. They married young, forging a partnership that felt unbreakable. She had witnessed his rise and gently reminded him to ground his ambition with compassion. But behind Andrew's calm facade lurked restlessness. While Catherine and their unborn child should have completed his happiness, Andrew found himself too enthralled by the world's endless temptations. He wasn't content. He wanted to forge an empire that rivaled the biggest names in American business, and with that desire came a whirlwind of new faces and endless travel. Lately, Catherine's delicate condition meant fewer lavish trips and fewer nights of partying, just the opening Andrew needed to slip into temptation. Andrew. Catherine said, her voice soft but tinged with concern. "Are you all right? You seem a little distant." He plastered a reassuring smile across his face. "I'm great. Just thinking about the potential partnerships tonight." His voice was breezy casual, but as soon as Catherine's gaze moved away, he scanned the crowd once more, looking for someone else. A new presence, a forbidden intrigue. Her name was Elena Rossi, an Italian-American PR executive known for her impeccable networking and unstoppable charm. She had bright blue eyes, an effortless style, and an insatiable ambition that mirrored Andrew's. A few months back, Andrew had met Elena at a tech conference in San Francisco, where she was representing a medical startup. Their connection was immediate, magnetic. They'd exchanged business cards, flirted discreetly over late-night cocktails, and eventually succumbed to an affair that neither of them fully planned, but both desired. That evening at the gala, Elena wore a shimmering silver gown, the back cut low enough to turn heads all across the ballroom. When Andrew spotted her from across the floor, a wave of adrenaline coursed through him. She met his eyes for just a second, offering a subtle tilt of her wine glass, before turning away to network with a film producer. The message was clear. "I'm here, and I won't be ignored." Andrew's heart pounded as he fought to keep his composure. Catherine remained unaware of the storm brewing around her. She chatted politely with a few other pregnant wives, discussing baby names and doctor recommendations. Andrew felt a twinge of guilt as he watched Catherine, her face glowing with maternal pride. The child she carried was a symbol of their love. He'd promised himself that he would be different from the men who let success corrode their personal lives. Yet the lure of Elena's ambition and the rebellious thrill of secrecy tugged at him. The more Andrew succeeded, the more he felt bored with routine. Elena was a wildfire, unpredictable and bewitching. In fleeting moments, he feared that Catherine's gentle warmth had grown too predictable. Halfway through the evening, Andrew quietly slipped away from Catherine's side, using the excuse of checking his phone for an urgent business call. He navigated the packed ballroom, weaving past the swirling sea of tuxedos and glittering gowns, until he reached a secluded corridor near the lavish bathrooms. Elena stood there, leaning against a marble pillar, swirling her champagne. "You made me wait," she teased, arching an eyebrow. Her voice held a silky confidence. "My wife was with me," he replied, glancing over his shoulder to ensure no one was eavesdropping. "I'm here now." The corner of her mouth curved into a smile. "So you are." She stepped closer, looking into his eyes. "I missed you." Andrew closed the distance, inhaling the sweet scent of her perfume. "We're risking too much," he whispered, though the words lacked conviction. "We'll be careful," Elena promised. She brushed a fingertip across his lapel. "Because we both know we can't stay away from each other." He nodded, swallowing hard. This was the night that would set in motion a chain of events neither could predict. In that corridor, amid opulent wallpaper and hushed voices, Andrew sealed his fate with a single kiss that somehow felt more electric than all his successes combined. In the following weeks, Catherine noticed subtle changes in Andrew. He was more absent at home, frequently slipping away to urgent meetings or investor calls. Their family dinners, once a cherished ritual, became rushed affairs. His phone would light up with messages at odd hours, which he justified as time zone differences when dealing with overseas clients. Andrew's entire world had become a balancing act. On the business front, he was orchestrating the final steps to acquire a massive real estate property in downtown Los Angeles, a deal that had the potential to skyrocket his net worth and establish him as a formidable player in West Coast real estate. On the personal front, he was juggling two women, the mother of his child, whom he had loved for years, and the new mistress who ignited a passion he never knew he craved. But cracks began to show. Catherine sensed his growing distance. Her once delicate constitution, taxed by the stress of a complicated pregnancy, made her worry that her husband was drifting away at the most critical moment. One evening, Catherine confronted him. "Andrew," she said softly, standing in the doorway of his home office. "I've been thinking. You've been so busy lately. We hardly talk anymore. Is something wrong?" Andrew lifted his head from his laptop, eyes wary. He forced a comforting smile. "I'm fine, Kath. The new deal is massive. I'm trying to stay on top of everything so that we can." He paused, searching for the right words, "so that we can have the best future for us and the baby." She walked over gently, resting a hand on her belly. "I appreciate everything you do for us, but I worry. You've changed somehow." Guilt gnawed at him. He stood and approached her, placing a hand over hers on her belly. He remembered the first time she'd told him she was pregnant, the overwhelming joy, the tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "I promise once this deal is done, I'll slow down. We'll spend more time together." It's just temporary. Relief flashed across her features, but only for a moment. All right, Catherine whispered. Just remember, we're in this together. Andrew enveloped her in a hug, the weight of his double life pressing down like a cage around his heart. He couldn't deny that Catherine's presence provided comfort, a respite from the chaos, but his phone buzzed with a text from Elena as he held his wife, and he couldn't resist sneaking a glance once Catherine looked away. The text read, "I miss you. Need to see you tonight." That night, Andrew insisted he had a late meeting with an overseas investor. Catherine believed him, or at least she pretended to. But her eyes brimmed with tears once he left. She walked to the nursery they were designing, running her fingers across a tiny pair of blue booties. She tried to ignore the dread brewing in her heart. As Catherine's due date approached, her health became increasingly delicate. Doctors advised her to minimize stress and prioritize rest. She found herself needing more of Andrew's presence, not just financially, but emotionally. She yearned to share her worries, her hopes, the subtle shifts in the baby's movements that she felt each day. But Andrew's presence was ephemeral. He was physically in their grand house only half the time. His mind seemed always somewhere else. In truth, Andrew was embroiled in an intense negotiation with a consortium of investors for his downtown Los Angeles real estate project. The numbers involved were astronomical $150 million to secure prime land intended for a luxury hotel, private condos, and high-end retail. If successful, Andrew would join the ranks of legendary tycoons, a dream he'd harbored since the days he lived in a cramped studio apartment. Elena, too, was pushing him to accelerate their relationship. She hinted that he should consider leaving Catherine, especially given the baby's birth would only complicate matters further. Whenever Andrew resisted the idea, she'd remind him of the excitement and ambition they shared, painting a future where they would be unstoppable partners in business and in life. Caught between these two forces, Andrew began to unravel. Every day, he juggled urgent phone calls, clandestine rendezvous with Elena, and concerned messages from Catherine. The guilt and anxiety gnawed at him, but the thought of halting his passionate affair felt impossible. One evening, Catherine made a desperate move. Feeling a sharp pain in her back, she called Andrew repeatedly, only to be sent to voicemail again and again. In a panic, she rang his executive assistant, who reluctantly divulged that he was at a private dinner discussing a business matter. Catherine, trembling, clutched her phone. She knew Andrew's deal was crucial, but her heart pounded with fear. What if there was a complication with her pregnancy, and he wasn't there? Finally, Andrew answered. "Catherine, I'm in the middle of something urgent," he hissed into the phone, stepping outside the upscale restaurant where he'd been dining with Elena and two potential investors. "Is this absolutely necessary, Andrew?" she said through tears. "I'm in pain. I'm scared. Something is wrong." A flicker of concern crossed his features. "Did you call Dr. Fletcher?" She nodded, though he couldn't see. "He's on his way. But I need you, Andrew. Please come home." The moment stretched taut. Andrew glanced back at the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows. Elena watched him from inside her expression, stern, wanting him to conclude the call. The investors were sipping their wine, glancing at their phones. This dinner was crucial for the future of his empire. Yet Catherine's voice trembled with genuine fear. "Okay," Andrew said softly, pinching the bridge of his nose. "I'll come home. I'm on my way." When he returned to the table, Elena raised an eyebrow. "You're leaving my wife. She's experiencing complications. I have to go." Elena's eyes hardened. These men flew in from Tokyo for this meeting. Andrew clenched his jaw. I can't ignore Catherine's needs right now. He paid the bill hastily, apologized to the investors, and left. Elena's gaze followed him, smoldering with disappointment. She hated how Catherine, unseen and distant, still held the power to pull Andrew away. Meanwhile, Catherine waited anxiously at home, doubled over in pain. When Andrew arrived, he found her pale-faced, breathless tears streaming. Dr. Fletcher examined her, concluding that while the baby was healthy, Catherine's stress levels were alarmingly high. She needed her husband's consistent emotional support, not just a promise of wealth. That night, Andrew slept fitfully. Catherine dozed off in his arms, relieved he was there. But Andrew lay awake, mind churning. He felt trapped in his responsibilities, uncertain where his heart truly lay. He wanted to be a good father and husband. He also wanted to pursue the scorching, thrilling romance with Elena. He convinced himself that he could keep both worlds separate, at least for now. Catherine's suspicions solidified the next day. While Andrew was at a morning meeting, she gathered laundry to wash. She picked up one of his suit jackets from the bedroom floor and felt a phone vibrating in the pocket. Confused, Catherine pulled out a sleek second phone. It was locked, requiring a passcode, but the screen briefly lit up with a name she'd never seen before. Elena Rossi, accompanied by a text preview. Last night was unforgettable. Thinking about you. Catherine's heart lurched. A cold wave swept over her. Her mind raced with 1,000 explanations. Could it be just a business contact? A flirtatious client? No. The tone was too personal. She felt dizzy sinking onto the bed phone, clutched in her hand. The baby kicked inside her as though sensing her turmoil. Andrew had another phone, one she'd never known existed. Catherine tried every passcode she could think of, birthdays, anniversaries, but none worked. Eventually, she placed it on the bedside table, trembling with anger and heartbreak. When Andrew returned that evening, Catherine was seated in the living room, the secret phone in her hand. He froze in the foyer, color draining from his face. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Catherine's voice cut through the silence. Who is Elena Rossi? A million lies fluttered through Andrew's mind, but Catherine's tearful eyes told him any deception would only deepen the wound. He started to stammer. She's a work contact. Catherine shot up from the couch, a trembling hand pressing against her pregnant belly. Don't lie to me, Andrew. I saw the message she sent. How long have you been seeing her? He closed his eyes, breathing heavily. It's complicated, Catherine. Complicated, she spat, voice breaking. You're carrying on an affair while I'm pregnant with your child. He stepped forward, arms raised in a pleading gesture. I never wanted to hurt you. Elena and I, it just happened. I promise it doesn't change how I feel about you. Catherine let out a bitter laugh, tears streaking her cheeks. It already has. You've been distant, absent and lying to me for months. How could you do this to us? Andrew stared at her guilt etched into his features. He saw the heartbreak he'd caused, recognized his own selfishness. He tried to approach her, but she took a step back. Catherine. I felt trapped in my routines, and Elena. She was new, exciting. I'm sorry. I am. I never meant for things to go this far. She shook her head in disbelief. You're sorry. That's all you have to say. For the next hour, they argued, tears and accusations filling the once peaceful home. The baby's due date was just weeks away, and Catherine's voice cracked with every plea for Andrew to end the affair. He insisted he would break it off. He promised to do the right thing for the family. By the time the shouting subsided, Catherine was physically and emotionally drained. Andrew helped her to their bed, offering water and rubbing her back to soothe the tension. Though Catherine let him comfort her, she couldn't suppress the aching betrayal twisting inside. She wanted to believe he'd stop seeing Elena, but she sensed the hold Elena had on him ran dangerously deep. Despite Andrew's vows to end things, Elena wasn't prepared to let go. When Andrew tried to break it off, she replied with practiced tears and a flurry of accusations. "I gave you my time, my energy. You promised me we'd build something incredible together," she hissed. "Don't you dare walk away just because your wife found out." Andrew felt cornered by Elena's fury and charmed by her raw charisma all at once. He tried to reason with her. "You don't understand. Catherine's pregnant, and this affair is tearing everything apart." Elena's eyes blazed. "Don't insult me. I know exactly what's at stake. But did you think you could just use me and throw me away? Remember the NDA you signed for this real estate deal? All that insider information you confided in me when you needed someone to strategize with. If you walk away, you'll be leaving me with a lot of secrets, ones that might interest your competitors." Andrew's stomach twisted. Over the months, he'd shared confidential business plans with Elena. She was cunning and well-connected in PR. If word got out about certain aspects of his negotiations, it could ruin the entire deal. Worse, it could spark legal troubles for him. Elena knew precisely where and how to apply pressure. Caught in this web, Andrew continued to see Elena, albeit in the secret. He spun a new set of lies to Catherine, insisting that he was wrapping up his project so he could dedicate all his time to her and the baby. Catherine, though still seething from betrayal, tried to believe him. She attended her prenatal checkups alone more often than not, refusing to let Andrew accompany her until he could prove the affair was over. It happened on a night that should have been celebratory. Andrew had just closed the gargantuan downtown Los Angeles deal. His real estate acquisition was finally secured. He returned home mind-exhilarated by the success and anxious about how to juggle his double life's next phase. Catherine was in the living room sorting through a pile of baby clothes. She looked up, exhaustion and heartbreak etched into her face. Before Andrew could speak, his phone buzzed. Elena again. Catherine shot him a scornful look. "Are you still in contact with her?" she asked, her tone hollow. He swallowed hard. "It's just about the real estate deal," he lied. "Nothing personal." Catherine stared at him, her voice trembling with anger. "I've tried to be patient, Andrew, but I'm done with the excuses. Our child is due soon, and you are still chasing after that woman. I need you to pick who you want in your life, me and our baby, or your mistress." Andrew's phone buzzed again, and Catherine grabbed it from the table before he could react. She saw another message from Elena. "I miss you, Andrew. We should celebrate tonight." Seething, Catherine turned on him. "It's not just business. You keep lying and I—" She broke off, tears streaming down her face. "I can't take it anymore." Andrew reached out to snatch the phone back. "Give me that!" he shouted, panic surging. Their voices rose, echoing against the high ceilings of their opulent home. Catherine clutched the phone to her chest, and Andrew lunged to retrieve it. In a split second of fury and desperation, he shoved her aside harder than he ever meant to. Catherine stumbled. She was heavily pregnant, unbalanced. She fell backwards onto the hardwood floor with a sickening thud. For a terrifying moment, everything froze. Catherine's eyes were wide with shock. Pain contorted her face, and a sharp cry tore from her throat. Andrew gasped, heart pounding. He rushed to her side, dropping to his knees. "Oh God, Catherine, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean... Are you okay?" She whimpered, hands cradling her stomach. Pain shot through her body, and she struggled to breathe. I think something's wrong." Andrew's entire world narrowed to that moment, the horror of what he'd done. He fumbled for his phone, ignoring Elena's messages now, and dialed 911. As he relayed their address to the operator, Catherine lay curled on the floor, tears and panic in her eyes. In the minutes before the ambulance arrived, Andrew held Catherine's hand, apologizing over and over. He could hardly breathe, paralyzed by the realization he had physically harmed the woman carrying his child. This single act, born out of desperation and rage, would irrevocably change everything. Paramedics arrived, strapping Catherine to a gurney, hooking her up to monitors. She winced with every bump. Andrew rode along in the ambulance panic, scorching his veins. The paramedics asked routine questions. But Andrew's guilt made him feel like every syllable revealed his darkest secrets. At the hospital, they rushed Catherine into an examination room. The sight of bright fluorescent lights and frantic nurses hammered Andrew's nerves. He paced the hallway, hands shaking. Dr. Fletcher emerged grave-faced. "There's a risk of premature labor. We need to monitor Catherine closely. She's under immense stress, and that fall could have caused complications." Andrew tried to speak, but no sound emerged. Guilt hammered him with relentless force. Dr. Fletcher eyed him with disapproval. "I understand tensions are high, Andrew, but Catherine and the baby's well-being must be your priority. She needs calm, no more stress." For hours, Andrew remained by Catherine's bedside. She dozed in and out of sleep, receiving IV fluids and medication to prevent early labor. When she finally opened her eyes, Andrew gently squeezed her hand. "Catherine, he began. She turned her face away, tears slipping down her cheeks. Her voice cracked barely above a whisper. "Don't." Andrew felt as though his heart was being crushed in a vice. He realized how far he'd fallen from the proud husband, anticipating fatherhood, to a man who had literally knocked his wife down because of another woman. He wanted to tear the last few months from his life, to rewrite every moment he'd chosen Elena over Catherine. The baby's vital signs remained steady, but Catherine was forced to remain in the hospital for close observation. Friends, neighbors, and even Andrew's mother visited. None fully understood the cause of Catherine's accident. Andrew had given a vague explanation about her slipping. Catherine remained silent, her eyes hollow. Andrew's PR-minded thought was to keep the real story quiet, but the guilt festered. Each time he met Catherine's gaze, he felt her fear her heart break, and the intangible distance that now separated them like a black canyon. He also felt a wave of self-loathing, realizing that in pursuit of ambition and pleasure, he had betrayed everything that once mattered. As Catherine lay in the hospital recovering, Andrew faced another blow. Elena had learned of Catherine's hospitalization and the real reason behind it. Perhaps she heard from a mutual acquaintance, or perhaps Andrew himself confessed too much in a moment of panic. Regardless, she seized the opportunity. Elena threatened to expose Andrew's affair if he didn't fulfill her demands, a public acknowledgement of their relationship once Catherine was stable, a promise to financially back her new PR firm, and a guarantee that she'd remain a key advisor in his real estate ventures. Her emails were coldly explicit, enumerating details of their affair and the business secrets he'd confided in her. If Andrew refused, she promised to leak it all to the media and his key investors. Cornered, Andrew sought legal advice. He feared that if Elena went public, it would destroy not only his business reputation, but also any remaining hope of salvaging his marriage. He had built an empire on trust and the illusion of impeccable character. A scandal of this magnitude could see him ostracized, possibly even facing lawsuits for unethical conduct. Worse still, the knowledge that he'd harmed Catherine and almost jeopardized the pregnancy made him certain that the only moral path was to break all ties with Elena. But Elena was cunning. He could not simply pay her off. She wanted more than money. She wanted status and power. Caught in this tempest, Andrew made an ill-advised decision. He tried to broker a secret deal with Elena, a sizable lump sum. Payment. Hush money, combined with a promise to give her a minor role in one of his new companies. He believed this would placate her enough to vanish from his life. Yet as soon as the money landed in Elena's account, she demanded even more. She threatened to come clean to Catherine, to appear on national television, to publish text messages and photos. Andrew realized too late that he had handed over the leverage Elena needed to tighten her control. Throughout Catherine's hospital stay, Andrew visited daily, though their conversations were terse and stilted. Each day, Dr. Fletcher reported that Catherine's condition was improving the baby stable. Yet her emotional wounds were raw and deep. She asked Andrew more than once to leave her alone to let her recover without his presence. He refused to abandon her. One afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the drawn curtains, Andrew found the courage to speak. "Kath, I can't begin to apologize for what I did. It was inexcusable, and I'm ashamed of who I've become." She stared at the window, silent. His voice trembled. "I let ambition blind me. I let lust for success and for Elena lead me astray. But I swear to you, I want to fix this. I'll do anything to make it right." Catherine blinked back tears. "Then end it. End it for good. Cut her out of your life, and tell me the truth about everything." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I will. I promise." She turned to him, arching his face for any hint of duplicity. "Andrew, this isn't just about you and me anymore. I'm bringing a child into this world, and I can't have this chaos. If you want to repair anything, you'll have to be honest and put our family first, truly, this time." Andrew reached for her hand, relieved when she let him hold it. "I will, Catherine. I swear." Within that hospital room, Andrew felt a spark of hope. For the first time, he understood the gravity of what he was risking. The monstrous lie he'd been living had already done irreparable harm. But maybe, just maybe, he could salvage something. Buoyed by the possibility of redemption, Andrew requested a final meeting with Elena at her high-rise apartment in downtown Los Angeles. He came prepared. His attorney had drafted a cease-and-desist letter threatening legal action if Elena continued to blackmail him. He also brought a single check funds to reimburse the hush money he'd previously given her. This time, he was resolute. No more payoffs, no more deals. Elena greeted him at the door, in a sleek black dress, her smile frigid. "I see you finally decided to crawl back," she said, stepping aside to let him in. Andrew walked in, scanning the minimalist decor. The view from her floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the LA skyline, sparkling with possibility. "I'm not here to crawl back," he replied, voice steady. "I'm here to end this for good." He placed the envelope on the glass coffee table. "Inside is a letter from my legal team. It outlines the legal ramifications you'll face if you continue to threaten or defame me." And this check, he slid another slip of paper forward, is the exact sum I paid you before. I'm not buying your silence. I'm returning the money so you have no leverage claiming it was hush money or an investment. We're done. Elena's face darkened. You think a piece of paper can stop me? You think I care about your attorneys? I think you'll care about the countersuits and potential charges if you try to release any fabricated or private information, Andrew shot back. You're free to speak the truth about our affair, any lie I have to face. But if you lie or twist facts to sabotage my business, you'll face serious consequences. Elena clenched her jaw, pacing the length of her living room. You're throwing everything away, Andrew. We could have built an empire together. Andrew gazed at her, recalling the thrilling nights, the heady excitement she brought. Yet in that moment, all he felt was sorrow for the man he'd become. I have a family, Elena. My wife and child come first. She scoffed. Now you remember your family. After all we did. His expression hardened. I made mistakes, terrible ones. This ends now. I won't negotiate or plead anymore. Do what you must, but stay out of my life. Something in Andrew's unwavering tone gave Elena pause. Her eyes flickered with a mix of anger, regret, and maybe even admiration for his newfound resolve. But she refused to let it show. Fine, she finally hissed, but don't forget Andrew. I can still go public. Good luck keeping your perfect image. Andrew turned to leave. At the door, he hesitated. I'm sorry, he murmured. I'm sorry I led you on. But this is over. With that, he walked out into the corridor, shoulders tight with tension. He half expected Elena to run after him or to fling more insults, but all he heard was the echo of the door slamming behind him. Though anxiety twisted in his gut, he felt the first real sense of clarity in months. News of Andrew's affair did reach certain circles. Elena, furious, leaked enough rumors to cause a minor scandal among Los Angeles' elite. A few tabloids published speculative pieces about Andrew's personal life, though none had solid evidence to run a definitive exposé. Some investors grew skittish, prompting Andrew to grant a press conference, clarifying that his personal matters would not affect his business. His lawyers threatened lawsuits against any entity that broadcasted unverified claims about the assault on Catherine. Meanwhile, Catherine was discharged from the hospital, placed on strict bed rest until her delivery. Andrew moved back into their home, devoting his time to her care. Tensions lingered. Catherine often turned away from him when he tried to help, the memory of being shoved and the heartbreak of betrayal still fresh. Yet Andrew persisted, determined to show her that his remorse was genuine. Their house, once filled with the clamor of social gatherings and business calls, fell hushed. Andrew cancelled most appointments, restricting calls to short bursts in another room. Each day, he read to Catherine, prepared her meals under doctor's guidelines, and assisted her with everything from adjusting pillows to massaging her swollen ankles. Slowly, the walls she'd built around herself began to crack, allowing small glimmers of hope. One late afternoon, Catherine looked at him, voice soft. I'm scared. He placed his hand over hers. Scared of what? Her eyes filled with tears. Scared you'll hurt me again. Not just physically, but emotionally. I don't know how to trust you anymore. Andrew's throat tightened. He knelt by her side, heart aching. I understand. I can't promise it'll be easy, but I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of your trust. She searched his face, pain and longing intermingled. I want to believe you. He kissed the back of her hand gently, letting his tears fall. "I love you, Catherine. I let darkness overshadow that truth. But I do love you." Time passed with agonizing slowness. Their communications improved bit by bit. Catherine began to share her anxieties about the upcoming birth. Andrew reassured her, reminding her that Dr. Fletcher was confident the baby would be healthy. Although their marriage was riddled with fractures, they were both fighting for the same future, a safe arrival for their child, and a chance at renewal. It was a humid summer evening when Catherine went into labor. Weeks of bed rest culminated in a sudden rush of contractions strong enough to send them speeding back to the hospital. Andrew gripped her hand, the entire ambulance ride, comforting her through every searing wave of pain. He felt the weight of redemption in that grip, praying for a miracle that would deliver both mother and child safely. At the hospital, Catherine was wheeled into the delivery room. Andrew stayed by her side, pushing aside the haunting memories of the last time they were there. Dr. Fletcher and the nurses moved quickly, hooking Catherine up to monitors. The labor was tense. Her body was still recovering from the trauma of the fall, and the baby's heartbeat occasionally wavered. Hours passed like a fever dream. Catherine screamed tears of pain mingling with fear. Andrew held her hand, whispering encouragement. His own tears dampened his shirt collar, every muscle taut with desperation. He kept recalling that night he shoved her, the look in her eyes, the danger he'd put them in. Now he wanted nothing more than to ensure their child arrived safely. At last, a piercing newborn cry shattered the tension. Dr. Fletcher held up a tiny baby boy, swaddled and perfect, wailing at the top of his lungs. Catherine collapsed back against the pillows, tears of relief streaming down her flushed cheeks. Andrew felt his own breath catch in his throat, a maelstrom of gratitude, guilt, and overwhelming love surging through him. The nurses placed the baby on Catherine's chest. She gazed down at their son, eyes brimming with awe, running a trembling hand across his soft cheek. Andrew leaned in, pressing a tender kiss to Catherine's forehead. "He's beautiful." He choked out tears falling freely. "Thank you for giving us this miracle." Catherine locked eyes with him, a fragile smile on her lips. In that raw moment, no words were needed. Their child's tiny heartbeat pulsed between them, forging an unbreakable bond that overshadowed every betrayal and lie, at least for that moment. The hospital room had grown quieter with each passing day. Machines no longer beeped with urgency. Nurses came and went in softer tones. Catherine's condition had stabilized, and Aaron, tiny pink and full of new life, was now the quiet anchor at the center of it all. But the true healing wasn't happening in the blood pressure readings or discharge charts. It was unfolding in the slow, fragile space between Catherine and Andrew. Every day, Andrew showed up. He brought fresh flowers, held Aaron without being asked, and stood by Catherine's bedside without pushing for forgiveness. He read her poetry, old love letters he once wrote, and never sent, and sat silently when she needed space. There were no grand declarations, just presence. That presence mattered more than he realized. Catherine watched him through guarded eyes. She saw the tension in his shoulders, the quiet remorse that haunted every word he spoke. He was no longer the man who breezed through meetings with charm and confidence. That version of Andrew had been stripped away. What stood before her now was someone raw, humbled, and broken, but trying. One evening after Aaron had drifted off in her arms, Catherine spoke softly. "I never thought I'd end up here." she said, her voice barely more than a breath. Not just in a hospital bed, but here with you. Wondering if I'm crazy to let you stay. Andrew, seated beside her, looked up slowly. You're not crazy. I might be, she said, her eyes filling with unshed tears. After what you did, what you hid, what you risked. You don't just get to walk back into this room and ask me to pretend it didn't happen. I'm not asking you to pretend. Andrew said, his voice steady. I'm asking you to let me prove I can be better. She turned her head away, staring at the monitor that displayed her vitals. Do you know how terrifying it was? Lying on that floor, wondering if I'd lose the baby. Wondering if I'd lost you completely. Andrew blinked, his throat tightening. I see it in your eyes every day. And I hate myself for it. I loved you so much, she whispered. Even when you started slipping away, I held on. I made excuses. I told myself we were just growing, not breaking. Andrew reached over gently, placing his hand over hers. I don't deserve your love. I don't. But if there's even a piece of it left, I want to fight for it. Catherine looked at their hands, his rough with guilt, hers trembling with uncertainty. She wanted to pull away to protect herself, but she didn't. I don't know if I can ever forget, she said. I don't know if I want to. You shouldn't, he said. What I did should never be erased. But I promise you, Catherine, I've ended it. Elena's out of my life. I'm stepping back from the company, all that ambition, all that running. I see now it was just me, trying to outrun my own emptiness. She said nothing. Being here, he continued watching you give birth to our son, watching you hold on when I gave you every reason to let go. It changed me. I don't want the life I built before. I want this. I want you. I want Aaron. Catherine closed her eyes. The ache in her heart remained, but so did something else, something unfamiliar, but not unwelcome. Hope. I'm not making promises, she said finally. I can't just hand you my heart again like nothing happened. I know, he said. I need boundaries. I need space. And if I see even a hint of dishonesty, if I feel unsafe for even a second, I will walk away and never look back. He nodded slowly. I would expect nothing less. For the first time in weeks, a flicker of relief crossed her face. She glanced at Aaron, who stirred softly in her arms. We named him Aaron, she said. It means mountain of strength. Andrew smiled faintly. That's perfect. The next morning, Catherine was discharged. Andrew insisted on driving her home. He opened every door, carried every bag, adjusted every seat. Not because she asked, but because he needed to. Back at the house, things were quiet. The once grand, echoing estate felt different now. Not in its size or elegance, but in the energy that filled it. Catherine walked from room to room, like she was seeing it all for the first time. Every photo on the walls, every corner where shadows once lingered. In the nursery, she placed Aaron in his crib and turned to find Andrew standing at the doorway watching. You sure you want to be here? She asked. Yes, he said. Not because I have nowhere else to go, but because this is the only place I want to be. She didn't smile, but she didn't turn him away. And for now, that was enough. The weeks after Aaron's birth passed in a haze of sleepless nights, soft lullabies and whispered apologies. The rhythm of life slowed to the heartbeat of a newborn, fragile, unpredictable, and beautiful. But behind the tender feedings and shared diaper duties was a deeper, more delicate reconstruction, one that required more than bottles and baby wipes. It required trust. Andrew knew that regaining Catherine's trust would be the greatest challenge of his life and the most important. The old days of grand gestures and flashy promises were gone. Catherine didn't want diamonds. She wanted stability. She wanted truth. And she made that clear. In a quiet conversation one night while Aaron lay sleeping between them in a bassinet, Catherine spoke the words Andrew had been preparing to hear. "I'm not going to pretend things are fine," she said, her voice even. "We're not just going to bounce back like nothing happened. What you did, it broke something in me. And I don't know if I'll ever see you the same way again." Andrew listened without interruption, the weight of her words slicing deeper than any accusation. He nodded. "I understand," he said softly. "And I won't ask for your forgiveness, not yet. I'll earn it, day by day. No shortcuts." So they began therapy, together, separately, with professionals who didn't sugarcoat, who helped them pull back layers of wounds and truths, forcing them to confront the reasons behind Andrew's betrayal. Catherine's quiet suffering and the silence that had crept into their marriage long before Elena ever arrived. Catherine voiced her pain, the nights she felt unseen, the months when Andrew had chosen ambition over affection. Andrew confessed his insecurities, the need to feel powerful, the fear of becoming ordinary, and the reckless hunger that led him to chase validation outside their home. There were tears, fights, sessions when Catherine stormed out, and days Andrew questioned whether they'd ever be whole again. But there were breakthroughs too. Catherine began painting again, transforming a spare room into a studio. The scent of oil paint returned to their home, and with it a sliver of her old self, vibrant, expressive, open. Andrew stepped back from business. He promoted a COO to manage daily operations and blocked out time each afternoon to be present. Not just physically, but emotionally. He read to Aaron, learned how to cook simple meals for Catherine, and started journaling, something their therapist had suggested. Slowly the mansion changed. The echo of high heels and corporate calls gave way to baby laughter. The shuffle of socked feet and the quiet rustle of pages turned in late-night reading sessions. Catherine noticed. She noticed when Andrew turned down a lucrative speaking event to attend Aaron's first checkup. She noticed when he turned off his phone without being asked. She noticed when he sat beside her, night after night, just to talk, not as a husband, desperate to defend himself, but as a man trying to listen. And although the memory of the shove, the lies, and Elena's name still lingered like a shadow, Catherine allowed herself, slowly, carefully, to believe again. Not in fairy tale redemption, but in effort, in humility, in growth. Their story was no longer about perfection. It was about rebuilding one fragile step at a time. The morning sun streamed gently through the arched windows of the Monroe estate, casting soft golden light on the hardwood floors of the nursery. A year had passed, 12 long, harrowing months, since that night of heartbreak and fear. But now the house echoed with the sound of baby giggles, the flutter of balloons, and the scent of vanilla cake drifting in from the kitchen. Aaron Monroe was turning one. The celebration was modest by their old standards. No socialites, no photographers, no catered grandeur. Just close family, a few old friends, and the people who had stood by them when their world collapsed. Laughter rang out from the backyard where folding chairs dotted the lawn, and a banner fluttered in the breeze. "Happy first birthday, Aaron." Catherine stood at the edge of the patio, a glass of lemonade in hand. Her eyes followed Aaron as he sat in his high chair, tiny fists gleefully smashing bits of cake onto his tray. Beside him, Andrew crouched down, laughing with unrestrained joy, frosting smudged on the cuff of his shirt. A quiet smile touched Catherine's lips. She didn't forget, she never would. The memory of the shove, the betrayal, the hospital, and the grief would always live somewhere inside her. But today wasn't about the past. It was about the present they'd fought to rebuild and the future they were learning to trust again. After the guests departed and the last of the paper plates were tossed, the house returned to its peaceful hush. Aaron slept upstairs, tuckered out from the excitement, and Catherine found herself in the living room with Andrew sitting on the floor amid wrapping paper and ribbons. She looked over at him, her voice soft. He had a good day. Andrew nodded, eyes still focused on a half-opened gift. He did. And you? You looked happy today. There was a pause. I was, she admitted. Not because I forgot, but because we got here. Andrew turned to her, his expression open, vulnerable. I know I'll never be able to erase what I did, and I don't expect you to forget, but I hope more than anything that we can keep building. Something better. He reached out, gently placing his hand over hers. She didn't pull away. Instead, she looked down at their hands and let out a soft breath. I never thought I'd say this, but I believe you. Not because of what you've said, but because of what you've shown. You didn't just ask for forgiveness. You worked for it. And that matters. Andrew's eyes glistened. You matter. You and Aaron are my entire life. They sat in silence, the weight of shared pain easing under the warmth of quiet understanding. A few minutes later, Aaron stirred upstairs, letting out a muffled cry. Catherine stood to check on him, but Andrew placed a hand on her arm. I'll go, he said. Get some rest. She watched him ascend the stairs, and for the first time in a long time, she felt something settle in her chest. Not blind trust, not naive hope, but peace. Earned, deliberate, fragile peace. In the quiet of their rebuilt life, Catherine knew the road ahead would still have bumps. But after the storms they had weathered this was a new dawn. And it was enough. Some stories end in irreparable tragedy. Others choose a hopeful new beginning. For Andrew and Catherine Monroe, betrayal and heartbreak paved a treacherous path to redemption. Though scars and memories never fully fade, their commitment to change brought forth the promise of a stronger tomorrow. Andrew discovered that success means little without someone to share it with, and Catherine found the courage to forgive without losing her self-respect. Their journey stands as a reminder that even from the deepest depths of pain, it's possible to rise and rebuild. If this story moved, made you reflect, or offered hope, please support our channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your engagement helps us bring you more powerful tales of love, struggle, and redemption. Join us in exploring the complexities of human hearts, one story at a time together. Let's keep our faith in the power of transformation alive.